Some companies claim their greatest asset is their people, which is adorable, because judging by their rules, their real passion is psychological warfare disguised as policy. 1. A major tech company once banned employees from talking to coworkers at their desks because it reduced productivity. So instead, people had to book 15-minute collaboration sessions in Outlook just to ask, "Hey, where's the stapler?" It turned human conversation into a bureaucratic escape room. The result? Productivity didn't go up, it tanked. Because apparently, nothing kills momentum faster than scheduling a calendar meeting titled "Quick Clarification about a thing that takes 4 seconds." It's like outlawing oxygen, then acting surprised when everyone's fainting. 2. At one insurance firm, staff weren't allowed to leave the building until exactly 5 p.m. Not 4:59, not 4:58. Security guards literally blocked the exits until the company clock struck 5, as if the workplace were some corporate Cinderella story. The logic? We don't want to lose even a minute of output. Meanwhile, everyone spent the final 10 minutes staring at the clock, like prisoners timing a jailbreak. You could hear the collective sigh when the door clicked open, a sound halfway between freedom and existential despair. 3. A retail chain introduced a rule that employees had to smile for at least 8 seconds after greeting a customer. Managers timed it with stopwatches. The idea was to project warmth, but the result looked more like a hostage video. You'd walk in and be greeted by someone smiling so hard it triggered your fight-or-flight response. Imagine being paid minimum wage to fake joy with the precision of a synchronized swimmer. It wasn't customer service, it was psychological endurance training. 4. One finance company banned personal mugs. Too informal, they said. Every employee had to drink from identical white company cups, as if individuality were a security risk. HR claimed it fostered professionalism, because nothing says professional like a grown adult sneaking sips from a branded cup while hiding their favorite mug like contraband. It's coffee, not an act of rebellion, but somehow it became both. 5. A logistics company once required workers to ask permission to stand up. Seriously. Managers said it was to track workflow consistency. Translation: they wanted to monitor how often humans dared to act like humans. Employees had to email their supervisors if they needed to stretch their legs or use the restroom. It was less a workplace and more a Victorian boarding school run by spreadsheets. 6. A multinational firm banned all desk plants because plants collect dust. Meanwhile, the office's air vents hadn't been cleaned since the Bush administration. Apparently, oxygen-producing greenery was a biohazard, but Karen's perfume cloud that could knock out a horse? Perfectly fine. 7. One company created a no-fragrance policy that somehow applied only to deodorant. Not perfume, not cologne, just deodorant. Because nothing says equality like banning the one scent that prevents the office from smelling like regret and body heat. They framed it as inclusive hygiene. I call it voluntary chemical warfare. 8. A CEO introduced a positive attitude policy. Employees could be written up for negative energy. Imagine living under a regime where sighing near the coffee machine is a punishable offense. Someone once got reprimanded for answering, "Not bad," when asked how their weekend was. HR suggested they say, "Absolutely wonderful," next time. Yeah, nothing screams healthy culture like weaponized optimism. 9. An office banned microwaving fish, which is fair. But then they banned microwaving anything because the smell of reheated food can be divisive. So everyone ate cold leftovers like medieval peasants huddled over Tupperware. Management called it streamlining lunch culture. I call it culinary oppression. 10. One company installed motion sensors in the bathroom to track idle time. Yes, they were timing bathroom breaks like it was the 100-meter dash. Anything over 6 minutes triggered a productivity conversation. You've hit a new low when your boss has analytics for your bladder. It's not time theft, Steve, it's digestion. 11. A software company banned hoodies. Why? They make the office look too casual. Which is rich, considering their CEO wore sneakers worth more than a mortgage payment. Apparently, fleece is a threat to professionalism, but company retreats with trust falls and forced karaoke? Perfectly respectable. 12. One company banned working from home during snowstorms to build resilience. Employees literally skidded their cars into parking lots like stunt drivers, only to spend the day dripping onto carpets while answering emails that could have been sent from bed. Nothing says leadership like turning frostbite into a team-building exercise. 13. A corporate bank banned chairs with wheels because employees were too mobile. The HR memo actually said, "Static seating encourages focus." Translation: "We don't trust you not to roll 2 feet to talk to Dave." So everyone sat in rigid, immovable chairs like stone gargoyles guarding the printer. Innovation died that day. 14. A manager once banned working overtime without approval, then refused to approve overtime, then complained people weren't finishing their work. It was like being told to bake a cake but not allowed to use the oven. Somehow, the only consistent thing about corporate logic is that it never survives contact with reality. 15. At one creative agency, employees had to submit a fun request form before organizing any team activity. Want to order pizza? Fill out Form F-117A and wait 2 weeks for upper management to confirm pepperoni aligns with company values. By the time they approved it, everyone's enthusiasm, and probably their will to live, had expired. 16. A corporate HR department banned sarcasm in all internal communication, which is impressive considering the memo announcing it was accidentally sent to everyone with the subject line, "Mandatory Fun Update." Nothing kills morale faster than outlawing the only coping mechanism left in modern employment. 17. One company forbade employees from leaving their desks during Zoom meetings, even if their camera was off. Someone got written up for walking 5 feet to grab water. Management called it a matter of professionalism. Because apparently, hydration is a gateway drug to rebellion. Honestly, if you're policing thirst, maybe you're the problem. 18. A well-known marketing agency once banned employees from using the word problem. Not the behavior, not the mistake, just the word. Apparently, saying problem created negative vibrations. Instead, we had to call every disaster an opportunity for growth. So, when the server crashed for 12 hours, the official statement was, "We're experiencing a growth opportunity in digital accessibility." You haven't lived until you've watched your boss rebrand a full-on technical meltdown as a learning moment. It's like calling a house fire a surprise heat event. They even had a jar for negative language. Every time someone said problem, they had to drop in $1. By Friday, that jar had enough to fund therapy for the entire department. 19. One company decided to improve trust and transparency by installing glass walls everywhere: offices, conference rooms, even the HR department. The result? A workplace that looked like a fish tank full of anxiety. You couldn't sneeze without 5 people making accidental eye contact. HR said it encouraged open communication, which is hilarious because it mostly encouraged people to cry in the restroom instead. Nothing builds morale like knowing your boss can watch you Google how to fake enthusiasm. Privacy died that day, and all that remained was the sound of nervous typing echoing through a transparent hellscape. 20. A certain retail corporation banned sitting entirely. No chairs, no stools. The rule was standing improves engagement. Engagement in what, exactly? A gladiatorial endurance match? Employees spent entire 8-hour shifts pretending their knees weren't plotting revenge. One person fainted from exhaustion, and management actually called it an inspiring example of dedication. Somewhere in a boardroom, an executive with a $2,000 office chair was nodding, saying, "See, it's working." 21. An accounting firm banned sticky notes because they create clutter and inconsistent messaging. Yes, apparently a post-it with "Call Dave" written on it is an existential threat to brand identity. Employees were told to type all reminders into a shared cloud document that took 3 minutes to load. Productivity plummeted, but hey, at least the desks looked sterile enough to perform surgery on. Nothing says efficiency like spending 10 minutes finding the digital version of a note that used to sit 2 inches from your face. 22. A corporate law office once required all employees to address each other as Mr. or Ms. or even interns. The policy was designed to maintain dignity. In reality, it created the weirdest workplace dialogue imaginable. "Mr. Kevin, could you forward me that spreadsheet?" Sounded less like professionalism and more like a cult where everyone had forgotten their own names. They claimed it built respect, but all it built was confusion and carpal tunnel from typing so many honorifics. 23. One company banned headphones because they isolate employees. Meanwhile, the same management encouraged deep focus time. The irony was so thick, you could spread it on toast. People started pretending to listen to invisible music just to survive the sound of Chad from sales explaining his protein shake routine for the 7th time. They said the rule was about connection, but honestly, it felt like psychological warfare disguised as team spirit. 24. A major food chain banned colored pens because they disrupted visual harmony. All pens had to be black or blue. Someone once used a red pen to correct a typo on a menu draft and was written up for unauthorized color use. Apparently, ink pigment was now a corporate crime. I'm sure the Romans fell for less. When you've reached the point where art supplies are a disciplinary matter, maybe the real problem isn't the ink, it's the insanity. 25. A corporate office installed a motivational speaker system that played inspirational quotes every morning. Imagine trying to start your day with a robotic voice shouting, "Teamwork makes the dream work." At 8 a.m., it was like being trapped in a TED Talk you never agreed to attend. People started timing their bathroom breaks to avoid the speeches. Nothing jumpstarts productivity quite like being serenaded by AI Oprah while your coffee hasn't even kicked in yet. 26. A financial company banned birthdays. Literally banned them. Too distracting, they said. Apparently, cake was a gateway drug to anarchy. Instead of celebrating, HR introduced quarterly employee acknowledgement moments. 15 seconds where your manager nodded at you like a disinterested waiter. People started celebrating secretly in the parking lot, like teenagers hiding from curfew. You know you've built a dystopia when frosting becomes contraband. 27. A startup banned paper clips to save the planet, which sounds noble until you realize they replaced them with disposable plastic sleeves that came in packs of 200. When someone pointed this out, management doubled down, saying the clips represented old thinking. Right, because saving Earth one spreadsheet at a time totally outweighs producing a landfill of irony. The whole thing was less about sustainability and more about pretending stupidity was innovation. 28. One company banned working from cafes because the sound of coffee machines causes distraction, as if ambient latte noise was somehow the enemy of capitalism. Meanwhile, their open office had a constant symphony of clicking, coughing, and oversharing. But sure, blame espresso. They said it was about maintaining a professional environment. Nothing says professional like crying into your keyboard because you weren't allowed to write emails near Wi-Fi and caffeine. 29. A manager once banned swearing in Slack chats. Reasonable, right? Except they also banned indirect profanity, meaning even using symbols like %, was a violation. Someone got flagged for typing WTF, which apparently stood for words that frustrate. HR said it was an opportunity to model civility. Meanwhile, morale dropped faster than the company's stock. The rule lasted 3 weeks, which, ironically, everyone described as hell. 30. An HR department introduced mandatory gratitude sessions. Every Friday, the entire staff had to gather on Zoom and thank each other for something, no matter how small. If you couldn't think of anything, you had to thank the organization. Nothing says sincerity like being forced to thank a tax entity for existing. After a few weeks, the gratitude started sounding more like hostage negotiations. I'm thankful for chairs, silence, and breathing. Thank you. 31. A delivery company banned beards. Not for safety reasons, for brand image. The CEO said, "Beards look too rebellious," because apparently nothing screams anarchy like facial hair. One guy who'd had a beard for 15 years was told to shave or reconsider his cultural alignment. He shaved, looked 10 years younger, and immediately quit. I guess the clean-shaven revolution won that day. 32. A tech firm banned emails longer than 75 words. Concise communication only, they said. The problem? Every message required multiple follow-ups because no one could explain anything in under a paragraph. What used to be one email became 12. It was the corporate equivalent of texting you up for project management. But hey, at least they achieved peak efficiency and confusion. 33. One company introduced a rule requiring employees to CC their direct supervisor on every single email. Every single one. Even the ones that said, "Thanks." Inbox counts tripled overnight. Managers started drowning in digital small talk, but they called it ensuring alignment. It was less alignment and more surveillance with extra steps. If paranoia were a business model, they'd be Fortune 500 by now. 34. A marketing firm banned water bottles that weren't branded with the company logo. The reasoning? We want to promote unity through hydration. So yes, if your bottle didn't have their logo, you were technically off-brand. They actually had a meeting about it. A meeting about water. It's almost poetic how corporations can take the one thing humans need to survive and turn it into a branding exercise. Somewhere, Evolution is watching this and filing for a transfer. 35. One international company banned clapping. Yes, actual applause. They said it was too disruptive to workflow and replaced it with silent hand waves, like jazz hands at a funeral. Now, every time someone finished a big presentation, a room full of adults flapped their hands in dead silence like confused sea anemones. HR called it inclusive celebration. I call it the sound of enthusiasm dying in real time. The CEO even said, "It feels calmer this way." Of course it does. Dictatorships usually do. Nothing says, "We value your contribution," like banning the physical expression of joy. 36. A call center banned bathroom breaks that weren't scheduled. You had to book your bladder on the shared calendar, minimum 24 hours in advance. If nature called unexpectedly, you were told to plan better next time. Someone asked what to do in an emergency, and the manager genuinely said, "Be more self-aware." It's like they mistook employees for robots, ones that run on coffee but apparently don't need to eject it. Honestly, if the toilets could talk, they'd unionize first. 37. A marketing firm introduced mandatory creative silence days. No talking, no music, no chatting, just quiet innovation. You were supposed to sit in complete silence and think bigger. But the only thing anyone thought about was lunch. By 10 a.m., the office sounded like a hostage negotiation with stomachs growling in surround sound. Someone sneezed once, and HR sent an email reminding everyone that disruptions limit synergy. Nothing kills creativity faster than enforced mindfulness by people who've never had an idea. 38. A luxury fashion brand banned the word sale. Not the discounts, just the word. Staff were instructed to say price evolution. So if you asked if something was on sale, the employee had to say, "It's experiencing a moment of financial reinterpretation." It's like watching capitalism cosplay as performance art. They weren't selling handbags anymore. They were selling delusion wrapped in velvet. And the worst part? People actually bought it. 39. A major tech startup banned employees from using question marks in emails because they undermined confidence. Apparently, curiosity is weakness now. Instead of asking, "Can we meet tomorrow?" you had to write, "We will meet tomorrow." So the whole office slowly devolved into a passive-aggressive cult of certainty. No one knew what was happening, but everyone sounded very sure about it. It's impressive. They managed to outlaw both punctuation and humility in one memo. 40. A company once created a mandatory casual day. Not optional, mandatory. You had to dress casually or face disciplinary action. One guy wore a suit by accident and got a warning for non-participation in company culture. Imagine being punished for being too professional. It was like Opposite Day, but run by people with clipboards. HR described it as a celebration of freedom, which is an interesting way to spell dictated informality. 41. One company introduced an email blackout day. No emails allowed for 24 hours to reduce stress. Sounds good, right? Except they didn't tell clients. So everyone spent the entire day fielding angry phone calls about unanswered messages. Management called it a communication detox. Yeah, detox, as in shaking, sweating, and hallucinating by noon. It was the corporate equivalent of quitting caffeine cold turkey in the middle of a board meeting. 42. A restaurant chain banned chairs with backs because it encourages better posture. The result? Everyone sat like exhausted flamingos trying not to pass out. Customers hated it, employees hated it, chiropractors loved it. The company said it was part of our ergonomic evolution. Sure, if evolution involves regressing into jellyfish. It turns out no one wants to eat soup while balancing like they're auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. 43. A real estate firm required all employees to wear name tags even on Zoom calls. HR said it reinforces brand consistency. Imagine logging into a meeting, sitting alone in your kitchen, and pinning a plastic badge to your t-shirt so the Wi-Fi feels respected. Someone asked if they could use a virtual background with their name instead, and HR said, "That's not authentic." Authentic? You're literally speaking to pixels, not people. 44. A logistics company introduced a no-clock policy to liberate workers from time constraints. They removed every clock from the office, including the ones on computers. It was supposed to promote natural workflow. Instead, people either worked until midnight or went home at 2 p.m. because nobody knew what was happening. Productivity collapsed faster than a Jenga tower in an earthquake. When asked how they'd measure progress, the CEO said, "We'll know when we know." Inspirational and terrifying. 45. A corporate design agency banned the color beige. The official reason? It doesn't inspire excellence. Every PowerPoint, every office chair, every sticky note had to be vibrantly aligned. They even sent out a memo reminding employees that beige reflects stagnation. The irony? The CEO's personality was beige. The whole company eventually shut down, but at least they died in color. 46. A travel company banned remote employees from working anywhere too scenic. The policy stated that vacation-like environments may decrease focus. In other words, paradise is unprofessional. Someone got in trouble for joining a call from a balcony with palm trees in the background. HR said, "It sends the wrong message." Right, because God forbid anyone look happy while on a corporate meeting. Joy, after all, doesn't align with the brand. 47. One company banned abbreviations because they confuse leadership. Yes, executives apparently couldn't handle acronyms like ETA or FYI. Employees had to write everything out in full, turning every sentence into a corporate novel. What used to be a 10-word email became a Shakespearean soliloquy about estimated time of arrival. The productivity loss was enormous, but hey, at least management finally understood what LOL stood for. 48. A global retailer banned employees from saying, "I don't know." Instead, they had to say, "That's a great question." Which sounds fine until you realize it turned every conversation into a masterclass in corporate improv. Where's the restroom? That's a great question. It's like being trapped in a self-help seminar where no one actually knows anything. The company called it a language of confidence. Everyone else called it the sound of panic in disguise. 49. A corporate wellness initiative once banned sitting still. Yes, you had to move every 15 minutes, even if you were in the middle of a client call. The CEO wanted to encourage kinetic thinking. People started pacing like nervous zoo animals while trying to discuss quarterly budgets. By the end of the week, 3 laptops had been dropped, 2 ankles twisted, and 1 intern accidentally walked into traffic during a brainstorming call. Innovation through cardio, the future of business, apparently. 50. A luxury hotel chain banned the word no. Employees were told to find creative alternatives to refusal. So, if a guest asked for a live penguin at breakfast, staff had to respond with, "Let's explore that possibility." It sounded elegant, until someone actually did ask for a penguin, and management had to explain to animal control why there was a tuxedoed bird waddling through the lobby. It turns out that saying no is cheaper than explaining to the press how your customer service nearly started a wildlife rescue. 51. And finally, my personal favorite, one global corporation banned the phrase work-life balance. The official reason? It implies work isn't life. You know, like how air implies water isn't oxygen. They replaced it with work-life integration because apparently your job is now your soulmate. The CEO even said, "When you love what you do, it's not work, it's identity." Translation: congratulations, you're not an employee anymore. You're a personality cult with benefits. Somewhere out there, someone's still on a Zoom call, nodding earnestly while whispering, "Help." Vote for the most brain-melting one. Argue about which company deserves its own padded room, and for the love of whatever's left of logic, like subscribe and prepare yourself. Because corporate stupidity, it always finds a sequel.